Hey, hello. Welcome to episode number 68 of the People We Love podcast. I'm Adam Choit. What's up? If you're new here, what I do is interview people from all walks of life, usually comedians and other artists, about their lives and careers. The conversation is casual, but I also ask everyone to highlight someone they love, someone who they admire, who influenced them, inspired them, or supported them. For more, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's peoplewelovepodcast.com. And the Instagram handle is People We Love Podcast. And you can find me on Instagram as well, Adam Choit, my name, if you want to follow me too. And remember to tap subscribe or follow on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. So, today's guest is comedian, podcaster, and actor Alex Gettlin. Originally from Virginia, just outside DC, it was in Boston where he really saw himself develop as a comedian. And after Boston, we cover Alex's do-it-yourself cross-country comedy tour, which definitely had a few memorable stops along the way. We talk comedy, we talk Power Rangers, we talk being in a fraternity. But above all, Alex shows his appreciation for his fiancée, the multi-talented actor and comedian, Rachel LaForce. Let's just get into it. Here's Alex Gettlin. So it's good to see you today, Alex Gettlin.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for joining me virtually here. I appreciate it.
We're safely social distancing.
Yeah, about 3,000 miles, right?
Yeah, I think something like that, yeah.
You're in Georgia.
I am.
And how's that going?
Pretty good, man. I mean, it's the house I'm in now. It's big with a yard and got lots of space, so it's better than being in my shitty apartment in Hollywood. Or my apartment's not even shitty, but it's too small to quarantine in. So, pretty much the night after the mayor put in the shelter in place, my fiance and I packed up the car and drove across the U.S. to her childhood home here in Marietta, Georgia, and we're gonna be here until LA reopens.
Yeah. Do you miss LA?
I mean, I miss what LA was before shelter in place. I don't feel that I don't have any desire to come back now. But yeah, I certainly hope that things go back to somewhat normal and then we can get back to doing shows and all kinds of stuff. But
yeah, that would be cool. Life resumes again. I remember it a little bit.
Yeah.
I keep hearing like these newscasters or whatever random comments are people saying that February feels like it was like 3 years ago. February 2020.
It's yeah. I mean, it sounds like that. Well, so it's funny because I remember I went to a wedding. I think the first weekend in March. It was my cousin's wedding, and my parents were there. And they don't live in California; they live in Virginia. And they were asking me and my brother, who also lives in LA. They were like, "Hey, so are you guys? Are people worried about coronavirus there?" And we were all like, "No, no one's worried about that. That's not happening here." And we just were so dismissive. Didn't even think it was a thing that we had to be concerned with. And like 2 weeks later, the entire city is in complete lockdown.
Right.
Or the country. So it just happened so quickly.
Right. What do we do about it? What can we do? What can we do to keep sane? Are you keeping sane?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, I ride my bike around the neighborhood here. I work on editing videos and creative projects for my
digital
podcast.
Content.
Pretty much. I'm not writing stand up. It hasn't. I am a comic that I get an idea and I kind of riff it on stage. I'm a very heavy on stage writer. So I have like loose premises and stuff I've kind of jotted down, but until I can perform again, it's just not my style to do a lot of stand up writing.
I think a few comics I've talked to have kind of had that feeling where it's like a little bit hard to get into writing hardcore material because you can't try it out. So you're only really jotting down ideas because you can't try anything out. Yeah,
and that's the thing. And I'm not too worried about it. I mean, I'm not concerned in turn. Like, I'm sure there'll be a little window where all of us were kind of rusty. We have to kind of, figure out how to stretch and get back into, playing at a professional level again, if you will. But, there's some guys and girls who, some comics who their writing is so set up punch, like Twitter joke type things.
Yeah.
That you can just crank them out. I'm not like that. So, I certainly am not going to be coming in with any like hot takes on quarantine. I'm not doing any quarantine material.
Why have you got no witty hot takes on coronavirus ready to go?
Yeah, it's just everyone, it's one of those things where like everyone's going to have like, this is I'm not against it. Like, fine. If you really have something to say, go for it. But I don't have any this experience hasn't been unique aside from it's unique for everybody. But for me, honestly, my life right now is not bad. I mean, it's boring and it will get bad if in a few months I can't get a job or earn money or something, but I'm okay for a little bit. So now it's just a lot of, binging a lot of shows, sleeping in,
Yeah, I hear you.
reading on the
surviving, making the best of it.
Kind of, yeah.
What about your life when you were 0 years old, when you were born and you came home from the hospital? What do you remember from the early days, the very early days?
I think my first memory, I don't know what my first memory was, but one of my first memories was getting rushed to the ER by my mom. So she was pregnant with my younger brother. So I had to be like 3.5-ish, roughly. And something happened where like she woke up from a nap and I was covered in this like sticky red stuff. And then she realized that I got into a bottle of like children's Tylenol.
Oh, man.
And she didn't know how much of it I drank. So she rushed me to the hospital. They pumped my stomach. Ended up being that I poured most of it all over myself and not that much in my mouth. So I ended up being fine. But that I have this like memory, because that's like a traumatic thing. Mom's freaking out, screaming, rushing me to the hospital. And, so that is probably my earliest memory.
What flavor was the
the I think cherry.
Yeah,
I think cherry.
It was good. That's good stuff.
I know. I was little and I was trying to get in there, and yeah, it could have gone a lot worse, but thank God it didn't. Yeah.
Then she sent you to rehab when you were 3.5 years old.
Yeah, right.
You were the youngest kid there, the youngest person.
Just wild, right?
Oh man,
Yeah.
What about after that? Did things get more pleasant?
Yeah, I had a pretty easy childhood. I mean, I just pretty normal, went to public school and
siblings.
I have a younger brother, yeah. And I was a pretty outgoing kid. I was really into Power Rangers. I remember that being the first show I was like obsessed with. And Mortal Kombat. I remember that movie. That was actually the first album, the first CD I ever bought was the Mortal Kombat soundtrack.
What was on that? That was
I don't even know. It was just remember. It was just the music from the movie. But I remember I saw it at the store and like begged my parents to let me get it. And like, there's like a song. It's just like the guy from the video game is like Mortal Kombat. Do 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 do. Remember that? You know what I'm talking about?
I do. I mean, I do remember the movie and the game, of course, but I also remember like being a child and being captivated by commercials and the music and the sounds and the colors and just wanting those things. Like it's like super duper powerful. Now I'm immune to advertising. I'm too smart. They can't get me. But back then, like looking back, it's like, wow, I wanted, like it excited, like it stimulates the brain in a way that like, drugs or a cookie or things might.
Well, I remember this is another memory. I think I was 11, maybe 12. The first stand-up I ever found, I like stumbled upon Eddie Murphy's Raw on Napster, and I downloaded that.
The audio.
Yeah, the audio, yeah. And I thought it was the greatest thing I had ever heard in my life.
I'm pretty sure it is the greatest thing that you ever heard in your life.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. It was so funny and just, and I was young. I was like, I wasn't even, I think I was in 6th grade, maybe 7th grade. And I remember hearing it and I was like, dude, this is so funny. And then I started like discovering more and more stand-up after that. But Eddie Murphy's Raw was the first one I like stumbled upon and really got into.
And you grew up outside of DC.
Yeah.
Right. And how far from DC?
Like an hour. My dad would commute into work.
Did you go into the city a lot?
Here and there, not a ton. I mean, there were times that we went as a family to like explore, but it wasn't close enough where like I could just go when I felt like it. It wasn't like there was like a subway that made it to my house.
No train or nothing like that.
No. There is a commuter train that goes, but it only runs like early in the morning and then brings people back late at night. It doesn't run like at all hours. But then when I went to school, I went to college outside of DC, so I had an internship there. And when I was an adult, like an 18 and plus, I would go to DC. Yeah, DC a lot. But before that, not really.
Yeah. What about elementary school? Were you a good student then?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, I got like decent
Yeah,
grades. It wasn't like
everyone's a good student in elementary school for the most
yeah.
part.
How can you not be? You
Yeah.
know, it's so easy.
I remember kids not being though. I remember like, but it was more that they probably didn't try, and thinking about it, it wasn't probably because they didn't try. They probably had some serious personal problems going on at
Yeah,
home. That's what I feel like looking
right,
back. Every kid that was like acting out or not trying or not like doing the bare minimum probably
right.
had some serious shit going on at home. They weren't just assholes for no reason. Their parents were probably assholes or
They were being
not
neglected and
around.
all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, totally.
thinking about that, I guess. But
Right.
that's cool. What about middle school? Did things get
I
harder?
didn't. I did not like middle school. That was the only window of school that I fucking hated.
I'm the same
Um,
way for the most part.
I didn't have a lot of friends. I was in that awkward phase. I just didn't enjoy it. But high school was cool. I had a lot of good friends in high school, and I kind of started to develop my own sense of identity and personality by like ninth and 10th were okay, but by like 11th and 12th grade, those were like really good years. I mean, ninth and 10th were fine, but I felt like 11th and 12th grade were like really fun. Like I really had a good time.
Yeah, I always had an identity and personality, but I don't know if it was a good identity and the best
Yeah.
personality. So I've been working on some of those
I know in
those
like
things over the
ninth,
years.
yeah. I remember in ninth grade, I was like super into like a lot of like bands like Korn and Limp Bizkit and all that whole like new metal, rap metal scene.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Like, what were you into in middle school and high school? Like, after Power Rangers, or maybe Power Rangers
Yeah.
continues. Fucking fine
No,
with me.
no. I remember, yeah. So music like, like Linkin Park and that kind of stuff. And then South Park. I love South Park. I thought South Park was the greatest show I've ever seen. Dane Cook, I was super into Dane Cook. And then in like college, it was more like Chappelle and The Office.
But you hadn't done any performing, or had you done comedy or any acting or any performing or music, or were you a musician or play instruments or sing or anything up to this point?
Yeah. When I was little, I had done like little like local plays. I have like vague memories of my parents getting me in like community theater stuff. But in high school, yeah, I did the school play a couple times, and there was like an improv group in my high school. College, not really. College, I joined a fraternity, and like that was, I was just super into being in a frat. I used to promote parties at clubs and stuff. I used to like rent out through my fraternity. Like we would like throw parties, and I would like promote them around campus and stuff. So like we would like I was in this frat API, and then so we would like get a club and rent it out and sell tickets, and I would go around to other places and like hype it up and get people to buy tickets to our parties and things like that.
Yeah, is there anywhere that skill might come in hand today for you? I'm joking. I'm saying obviously it makes me think of comedy, like promoting,
Yeah, right, of
promoting
course.
promoting shows, and just like
Yeah.
it makes me think like that your high school experience, you got like kind of like a performing experience, like early performing experience, with the theater and some of the improv, and then in college you got like some sort of business, marketing, promotion sort of experience.
Yeah, a little bit.
in college.
Yeah,
So
it
like
certainly helped.
beyond that, beyond those times in your life, you've been able to probably combine those skills, and they've been useful
Definitely
for comedy,
helped.
I imagine.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And what about what were your plans like after high school? Like, what were you thinking junior, senior year, that you were going to go to college, or what were you going to study or be or do or major in?
Yeah, I mean, so I definitely always plan on going to college because like that's what you're like supposed to do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
And I figured it would be something in like marketing or creative. I didn't really have I just thought like something in that field. I knew it was not going to be like science or math, or I wasn't going to be a doctor or an engineer like that. I knew for sure.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it'd be a lawyer or something, or a sales, like some kind of sales executive. I didn't really know. And then when I got through college, I didn't really know either. I got a communication degree just because to me, I don't think it has served me any purpose. I don't regret
Where
going
did
to
you go to
college,
school?
but University of Maryland.
At the big one.
Yes, yeah.
College
Park
Park,
is
yeah.
the campus, and it's like 25,000 undergrad. It's huge. It's like a huge state school. And I don't regret my degree. Like, it was fine, but I don't think almost anything I learned in college has had a lot of bearing. Every skill that I have now that has earned me money, I've learned post college.
Right. I feel the same way. I mean, obviously, maybe the life experience and has value, and also sort of the connections with alumni that maybe you can utilize throughout your. Yeah, that's my next question. You're shaking your head left and right. I'm describing. You're questioning. For University of Maryland and entertainment, that's not a huge thing.
No, not at all. I just went there because it was like near where I grew up, and I figured like, yeah, it's a big school, why not? It was near DC. I wanted to be near a city because in my mind I was like, I want to have like,
yeah, it's a good school. It's not a bad school.
Yeah, but I meant like there are other really big state schools in the area that were like in the middle of nowhere. I wanted to be near a major city for like internship opportunities and stuff like that.
Right.
The alumni thing, no, I haven't used any alumni connections, but the life experience, yeah, for sure. The business end of learning, like promoting events and just overall networking, and like in the same way I would like go to nightclubs and try and promote throwing parties. It benefited me when I was in Boston trying to set up comedy shows at places and things like that. And it's kind of learning different lingo and, things of that nature.
Yeah, you are going to be the alumni connection for future university people who want to come to LA and, make things happen.
Yeah.
That's got to be you.
I suppose I also will say where you went to college doesn't have much bearing on if like I'll chat with anybody. I don't particularly care if you not that I dislike. I mean, Maryland is cool, but it's not like Harvard. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, cool. You went there and I went there. Great. It would be like, to me, it's like the same thing as like if somebody's like, oh, I'm a Pisces and so are you. It just happens to be.
You know what it's also like? It's like when I notice someone driving the same car as me on the road.
Right. It's like, that's how I feel. It's like, cool, but like I don't have any more respect for you than I would have normally.
I do, slightly, for people who graduate the same school as me, drive the same car, and are Aquariuses.
Yeah. To me, it's like a fun fact. I mean, it's certainly... I'll put it this way. I know a ton of very intelligent people that I went to school with, and a ton of people I went to school with that are very dumb. So it's a mixture of both.
I know what you mean. People who are smart enough to make money and have jobs and even maybe families, but are generally just dumb people.
Or vice versa, Yeah.
Yeah, poor people who are,
brilliant.
Brilliant.
Right.
That's me, maybe. No.
Yeah, maybe.
No, I want to be rich and dumb. No, can we be? Let's all be rich.
Yeah, that's
and
a
smart.
good. Would you rather? Would you rather rich and dumb or smart and poor,
or
brilliant and poor?
You can't be brilliant and poor though, because if you're brilliant, you figure out a way to make a little bit more money. Unless you're one of these guys who gives away all their money, but that's not going to be me. Maybe that's you. I don't know. Maybe not.
I have none to give away. Trust me.
Yeah, we'll cross those bridges.
Yeah.
Did you go to Boston right after college?
No, so I'm very roundabout. So here's my post-college timeline, okay? So my dad is from LA. He grew up out there. So I always went to LA multiple times growing up, visiting family and family vacations and stuff like that. So LA always was like a place I knew of and I had visited quite a bit. It wasn't like second home, but it was like very familiar to me.
Was the entertainment business in the corner, in the back of your mind ever growing up?
Yeah, kind of, but it took me a while to get there because for a long time it was like, it seemed too foreign. Like I didn't know how to go about that, right?
It can seem foreign for people even like who grew up here, spend time here. It can be, if you're not like engaged in pursuing those endeavors.
And I didn't have any direct connections or anything like that. So anyway, when I got out of school, I didn't have any plans, really. I didn't have like a job lined up or anything. So I just figured like, screw it. I'll just go to LA. Right. So pretty much I just packed up my shit and just came out to LA. And I figured, and I wasn't coming to LA to be a comic. That came a lot later. I just wanted to go to LA because I was like, well, it's always going to be easier to come back to the East Coast. It's going to be a lot harder to leave when I get older. So I might as well go west first, give it a try, see how it goes. And then I was doing a bunch of different jobs around LA, just various things, catering, and I interned at some different agencies, and I did I probably had like 20 jobs, or like when I say jobs, I mean like little gigs here and there that were short term and in like 6 months. And some of them were like literally like a one night gig, like working, like just being night of staff at a red carpet event or something, right? Just to like see. I always wanted to do. My attitude was like try everything that you think you might even kind of like, and figure out if you do.
That's a good attitude.
Yeah, I figured like try. So I interned at a talent agency for a bit. I realized very quickly I do not want to be an agent. Not for me. I worked at some marketing gigs. I did some like event production, and then I just did stuff that was purely just to earn money, like serving food at the Oscars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I got this job at TMZ, and it was just like timing that they were starting this new like bus tour that goes around the city, and they needed to hire people. And I was the first. I just ended up by like kind of timing and luck. I was the first person that they ended up hiring to work there. And I ended up basically writing the script for the tour guides. So there was like, and I wasn't like paid like a TV writer or anything. I was paid like a regular low wage job, but it was sort of like a very loose route and script. And they were like, hey, so this is like the talking points of the tour. Why don't you like put it in your own voice, which is like code for like, we're not going to pay you, but we want you to make something for us. Right.
Did you give the tours? Also, you're writing it for other people, you said, for TMZ, the TMZ bus tour.
Correct.
What is that? It's not. Is that like the star map kind of thing?
Kind of. It's a tour where there's a driver and a separate tour guide, and it goes around the city and shows people where like celebrity news crap has happened. So it's really dumb. But if you like celebrity gossip, I guess it's for you. But it's a very stupid tour, in my opinion.
Yeah, that sounds really dumb. But okay.
but they take people past like this is where Paris Hilton got a DUI, and this is where Lindsay Lohan got busted for
You
this.
could just see those things happening in real time.
I know, but dude,
take me to that.
But you got to remember, like, people who love celebrity gossip shit are the people who take this. So anyway,
yeah.
So they had like a route mapped out, but then they needed like it wasn't like a tour yet. It was just like the stops in the route.
They need a script.
So they were like, yeah, it was like a loose script, and I basically created it, and then. I worked there for a couple of years because I got promoted to like a higher position where I was kind of like running the day-to-day operations of the tour. I was training people. I was overseeing a lot of different elements. I worked there for almost 4 years. So, I was heavily involved. I was on the show a little bit because the whole attitude was like, they put all of the people who did the tours on the TV show. Cause then it was like your tour guide's on television. It's like a selling point. Right.
That's cool.
And then, yeah, it was fine. I mean, it's not a SAG thing. You know what I mean? It was just like, I just got paid like my part of my salary for it, but it was still like
positive experience. Sounds like.
Yeah, it was definitely unique to do. It was cool. It was like fun to be part of it for what it was at the time. And then also at the time I was doing like, because I was like on this bus, like performing, it made me want to get back into like doing performing stuff. So I started doing improv at Second City, and then, and I liked that, but I could tell it like wasn't what I wanted to be doing comedically and performing wise. Just like, it wasn't my thing. And then I remember, I like, for some reason walked into this like hookah bar randomly with like some friends, and I saw there was an open mic going on, and I didn't even know like I didn't even know what open mics were. Like I didn't know how that whole world worked. And I just asked the guy like, hey man, like what is this? And he's like, oh, you just sign up there. And so I came back the next week and did my first like stand-up mic. I don't remember exactly when it was. I think it was October of 2012, but I'm not positive.
How'd it go?
Oh, terrible. It was awful. And yeah, and then from about 2012 to 2014, I was dabbling off and on, but I was doing stand-up technically. Like I would do a mic here and then not do it for a month, and then like a mic there, one or two for the month, and then like maybe one show, a bringer show, which if you don't know what that is, it's like you have to bring a certain amount of audience members, and it's always like a terrible bar show. But then in 2014, my girlfriend at the time, we were pretty serious, and she got into grad school in Boston, and so I went with her. And then when I got to Boston, between 2012 and 2014, I probably did stand up 15 times, right? Like I did it, but it was not at all consistent. And then in 2014, when I got to Boston with my now ex, I was like, all right, I've been kind of dicking around doing stand up. I'm in a smaller city. Let me like try it again. If I'm really serious, I'm going to do it here. And then within a few, I don't know, maybe a month or two, I was doing it like every night of the week, or at
That's
least
great.
being
That's
out
cool. That's
out in the
great.
scene. Yeah, I really, because it was a much smaller scene, it was easier to get immersed in it. And then
But it's a tough
fast.
scene. I was going to ask, isn't it a kind of it's a, I hear Boston crowds can be a little
Oh
tough.
yeah, you got to be good. So it's great training, man. I learned a lot doing it there. But then so I was in Boston from 2014 to 2016, and that's where I feel like my comedy home is, because technically, um, I started in LA, but really I became a comic in Boston. And so looking back on my like experience promoting and stuff and in college, I saw that there was like a big open kind of market for doing more independent shows in Boston. There were not many going on when I was there. And by the time I left Boston, I had a show that I was producing and often hosting every Monday, every Wednesday, every Friday, every Sunday, and a monthly show on Thursdays. So
Wow.
it really, yeah. And then the other nights I was like doing other people's shows or, whatever else.
These are mostly at bars.
Yeah. The monthly show was at a comedy club, but the other ones were at bars. Yeah.
That's cool. What else do you remember from like the Boston scene? I guess particularly about like your own personal development. Like, is it just getting out there, the chops, and just doing it, and getting the reps, or is there any sort of like creative epiphanies that you had, or something
Well,
about yourself or your material that you noticed or observed?
I had a really, really awesome group of friends that were comics. That helped a lot because I didn't have like a group that I was doing stand up with in LA. Whereas Boston, it felt like I was part of a crew, which was really cool.
Yeah, it's great to get the feedback.
Yeah, man. And they were all really good and like new, but like clearly everybody had like potential. We like were really good about like helping each other get better and do gigs together.
Everyone was serious.
Very serious. The ones who weren't kind of faded away pretty quick because we were doing it so often, and it was like our life, like every night going out. We were making money doing it, not a ton, but enough to like, it would take it seriously. And then also, I think there's two elements that are really unique about Boston. One, it helps that so many legends have come from there, so that the reputation is pretty legit for that reason. But then also, Boston is a city where you have like your classic blue collar dock worker, Boston-y guy that you think of when you think of like The Town or The Fighter or Good Will Hunting, right? But then you also, in a very small city, have these like brilliant intellectual folks from places like Harvard and MIT. And you're like going back and forth between those two demographics. It's a very purple city because it's very blue and red politically and culturally. So you get a really interesting taste of different types of personalities, and people, they'll call you out if you suck. Like there are a lot of ball bustery types there. And I think that all those factors combined, you have to really learn how to be, you can't pander. You have to know how to have an act that can hit those very different demographics or you won't really make it.
When you did shows were you kind of dealing with one demographic at a time? Was it like, okay, this is sort of the more intellectual, richer crowd tonight, and tomorrow's the blue collar crowd, or is everybody sort of mixed and,
No, depending on the venue, it definitely had a certain type of audience for sure. And like there were two big clubs. So there's Laugh Boston that I performed at a number of times. And that was similar to like the Improv or something, where it was like a pretty mixed crowd. I mean, people clearly had money to spend to go to like a comedy club and get a 2-drink minimum and stuff, but it was a pretty mixed bag. And then there was the place called the Wilbur, which I never got to perform there. That's where people like Joe Rogan perform when they come to town. And that's like the club in Boston. It's basically like 1,200 seats.
Wow.
And yeah, it's like a miniature theater basically.
And that's just comedy they do there pretty much?
I'm
sure they
not. They do a little bit of other stuff, but it's like 90% comedy.
Yeah. Wow.
They had a few other things. Like they had like Thunder Down Under once or something. I like the calendar had like random shit, but it was mostly comics.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there were a lot of different rooms I did, so there was this place, there was one all black club in Boston, and I performed there once. I went a bunch of times to watch. It was really cool. I got to do a show there one time, and it was cool, man. It was the first time I'd ever done a show like that. And when I say it's all black, I mean literally every person in the building except for me and one other comic I came with were
Yeah.
African American. And it was really cool to have that experience to do like stand up in an environment that was so homogenous and foreign to me.
How did you do?
I did pretty good. I did well. Yeah. I didn't crush, but I got like solid laughs. I think, and I only did like a short, like 5-minute set. I think I got a lot of respect from the crowd being like, I very much just came and did like a solid act. And they were like, you know, I didn't try to pander to them. And I was clearly like a decent
Don't do
comic.
that. Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
So, yeah. So they, you know, they were like, all right, he's funny. You know, but the headliner that night is a black dude, and he did okay, but he had like, I remember, this is so funny, dude. He had one joke that he said and it like kind of bombed, and he just like tried to go into the next joke, and this lady in the front cut him off, goes, honey, we heard that shit. And then like everybody like calling out that the joke failed. He tried to like hide it, and the crowd like erupted in laughter. It was like, so you kind of had to be there, I guess, to really experience it. But it was just like, yeah, it was so funny to like witness that. But yeah, there were definitely, like any city, some crowds that were very, you know, you had to be kind of delicate with them a bit. Sometimes certain topics might make them more a little sensitive. Other crowds, you know, there are some crowds where you go into a room and you could say "fuck Donald Trump" and you get a standing ovation, and in the same city say "fuck Donald Trump" and you get cans thrown at your face and booed off stage.
Yeah, you got to read that room. I guess it's not about, you're not being inauthentic by reading the room. You're just, you know, reading the room and giving them the version of yourself that you want to in that moment.
Yeah, and I'm not a political comic. I'm pretty neutral on most stuff. I tell people when they ask me, I say like, I always serve the same meal. I just set the table differently depending on, you know, the audience that I'm performing for.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And what about, I guess, after your Boston journey, where do we go from there? Yeah.
So then my ex and I split up. It was amicable enough. We were just, our lives are going in different directions. And I never planned to stay in Boston long term. I always was like, you know, this is the thought initially was we would go, she'd finish grad school and we would come back. And then she wanted to stay and I didn't. And then we split up for that and a couple of other reasons. And so I stayed in Boston for a few other months, just kind of like, I didn't want to like rush back, but just kind of like finishing up some things I had going on. And then I came back and I drove across the country on my way back. I put together a 32-day like DIY comedy tour of sorts, doing spots at different venues across the country.
So this is on your way back to LA.
Correct.
Okay.
That was the end of 2016.
This is not that roundabout of a, I expected it to be more roundabout. I've interviewed people who've had very, very, very roundabout lives that have gone all over the fucking world.
No, I didn't do any of that.
The other thing, I was going to say, the other thing that I thought was interesting that you said is that when you sort of got into this relationship in Boston, that's when you dove hardcore into comedy.
Right.
And I feel like I've interviewed a lot of people, or at least a few, who've been like, yeah, I stopped writing when blah, 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 but then we had a breakup and that's when I dove back into comedy. Like everyone, after the breakup, that's when everyone gets back on the horse.
Well, it wasn't really my intention to do that at the same time. It was because I had been with her for a bit at the time. But then it was because I was in a new city and I knew that like I always wanted to like do this seriously, but I didn't. It was too difficult to like get started in LA for what I was like. For me, some people who are able to do it. I wasn't in that position. I needed to be in a smaller.
It felt
market.
right.
Exactly. And so when I got to Boston, it just kind of took off very quickly for me there. So I was like, yeah, this is cool.
All right. Well, then after Boston, you plan your tour across the country and you came to LA. Anything memorable from, I guess, the cross country drive and tour?
It was awesome. I mean, that was cool because that was the first time I think that was the first time I'd ever done shows totally on my own. And what I mean by that is like every show I had done prior, I either kind of knew someone involved or had a friend that helped me set it up or you know, like I kind of knew somebody who knew someone who was involved with the show. This, I was completely like, didn't have any friends with me. I was kind of just, I got all these gigs by emailing and cold calling and stuff. And it was really fun, but it was definitely like my first taste of that experience of just kind of being truly like a lone performer. In some places I went, like I remember I had a weekend where, I was in Indiana, like some small town in Indiana, like a friend helped me get this gig. And I was like the only comedian on this show. It was like an event with like multiple things going on. And then it was just me, like, to do like 45 minutes of stand up.
Whoa.
And so, yeah, that was the first, it was like, that was a weird, not bad, but just a weirdly unique experience. Cause like I showed up at this event and there was like an event organizer who had like, I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was like some kind of barbecue fundraiser with different stuff going on. And, you know, he paid me a couple $100 to do like a 45-minute show. It was cool, but it was the first time, no opener, it wasn't like a night of comedy. It was like, hey, but, you know, thanks for coming out, guys. We got some live music at the end of the night, but now we got a comedian who's going to do a show for us, all the way from Boston, Alex Gettlin, guys. So then I had to like really like on the fly kind of get them in the mindset of, hey, I'm going to do stand. I couldn't just start jokes. I had to like kind of like talk about who I was, and I'm going to do stand up and kind of get to know. I like did a lot of crowd work, getting to know them first.
Smart.
So, like, yes, because it would have been terrible. And then that way, as I'm doing that, I'm kind of seeing who's talkative, who's outgoing, who's going to chime in later, and like filing away little notes in my brain to pull them in. Because that's a note I'll give to any comic coming up. When you get a gig like that, you got to really engage with the crowd and make it about them. Because this wasn't like a comedy club. Like, this was like an event for their group that everybody kind of somewhat knew each other. It was some kind of fundraiser barbecue, like for, I don't know what, something going on. Right. But I think what happened really is like, I was passing through, a friend of mine who's a comic, like helped me get in touch with this guy. This guy was just like putting together like an event, and he was like, yeah, I'll give him like $300 to come do a set. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. You know what I mean? It was like very like,
why not?
Yeah. And so the people there, it's like some of them probably didn't even know there was going to be comedy, or maybe never even seen a comedy show before. So they just knew that like they paid money to this fundraiser to like have a barbecue and have some kind of entertainment going on. So yeah, I did my thing, and then a band came on after me, and it was cool. It was, I mean, it definitely wasn't like amazing. I mean, it was it went like fine. I didn't do poorly, but it definitely took a lot of like, I probably did more crowd work on that show than I've done on most of them, because again, they wanted it to be about them.
Yeah. Well, you were not prepared to do 45 minutes, I'm guessing, either. Or were you?
I mean, technically, like, I definitely had 45 minutes worth of jokes I could tell. Were they good? Not all of them. A few of them. Most of them were like, meh. But, you know, but like, I could have filled the time, but I did a lot more.
Yeah, entertaining them.
Yeah, and again, I don't even remember what I was talking about. Like, I'm sure I had some kind of joke about dating, right? Like, who doesn't? So it would be like, right, are you guys who's dating each other? And I would just very silly, easy crowd work, but
Sure.
For those kind of audiences, they love it, right? I'm like, all right, who's out there and then I would like pick the oldest guy in the audience, be like, right, it's Mitch, right, Mitch? Dude's crushing on Tinder, and it's like because he's like 80. It's hilarious,
Yeah.
And it's like a very weak joke, but like
It
to
works
this audience,
there. Yeah, it works there.
yeah, because they all know this guy, and he's like the old man that everybody knows, and it's hilarious to them to be like, oh, Mitch is on Tinder, and then I was like, right, who's matched with Mitch? Right, you know, it's like things like that. It's very silly, but
Yeah.
I do remember one thing that I knew in the beginning, it was going to be an easy show, because I was like riffing with the crowd, getting to know them, and then this one guy was dressed head to toe in camouflage, and like not like army camo, like hunter's camo with the branches and leaves on it. Like, I'm talking like boots, pants, jacket, hat, like all camo, right? And I was like, sir, do you mind? Can you stand up for me, please? I just want everyone to see your outfit for me. And he like stood up and he like waved, and I was like, what's your name? Richard? Yeah. I was like, Richard, I don't know what your plan was with this ensemble, but we all can see you. And they thought that was like, dude, that I should have ended the show with that, because I opened the first couple minutes and they were like dying, and I was like, all right, now I got them.
Yeah.
Once I did that, then I had like kind of permission to start doing like regular jokes, and they were like on board. But I had to like do something personal to them that made it like fun, and they're like, oh, now we like this guy, we trust him.
It's so funny how that works. You have to win people over in that way. But I'm part of that.
Yeah.
I'm part of that. And I can feel myself watching comics being like, okay, in my mind, I'm like, okay, what do you got? Win me over.
Right.
What can you do? Bring it.
Well,
I'm challenging them in my head.
Right. Especially because a lot of them didn't even know there was going to be comedy. The organizer just came on stage and was like, all right, we got a special treat for you guys. I don't even know if he said I'm a comedian. He was just like, all the way from Boston, Alex Gettlin. And they just started like clapping, kind of like, all right, what's he going to juggle? What's going on here?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
What happened when you got to LA?
Well, my younger brother was in LA, so I lived with him. We got a place together, and he's a musician, and he was already out there for a couple of years. And yeah, just started diving right back into going to shows, going to mics, picking up odd jobs here and there to pay the bills. And I was just focusing on stand up. I wasn't doing anything else creatively at the time because, I don't know. I didn't know the path, and it just seemed too foreign to me. I didn't know, um, I didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
didn't
no, I
really
follow.
yeah, yeah. So I was just focusing and I love stand up so much. So that's why I was just focusing on that.
But that's good.
And
I was gonna say that's good because I'm thinking about the first time you came to LA and you were not like doing stand up as much. It was more
right,
like once in a while. So it sounds like this time you had sort of a new found focus on it, which
definitely.
is cool.
Yeah.
What year was this around when you came to LA in
2016, end of 2016.
2016? So where do we
Yeah.
kind of go from there? You're diving into stand up, you're doing odd jobs and
Yeah. And then all of 2017 doing that, and the beginning of 2018 getting kind of frustrated because I'm not like, as a performer, I felt like I was getting better. But in terms of opportunities, I didn't feel like anything was growing because again, LA is so different than other cities, man. Like in Boston and most cities, if you're really good just from like as a performer, then you get bigger and better opportunities. But in Los Angeles, so much of it is based on like your image and like your brand and like how much fame, basically how many like fame tokens do you have is what I think, which I understand because it has to do with like, are people coming to see you specifically? Where, I mean, everybody's famous in LA. So it makes sense that like, that's going to matter there,
yeah,
So it was very,
new challenges.
it was very frustrating. And also, I tried for a while producing my own stand-up shows, and I don't do anymore really, except for a pop-up here and there. I think you came to one of my pop-ups once.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, you actually are borrowing my gear right now for my
yeah,
pop-up
it's
shows.
behind me.
Yeah, nice. But I kind of took a hiatus from running shows. I had a bunch that I did one-offs at different bars and stuff, but I never really found the right formula to like get audiences out. I wasn't able to replicate it the same way that I was in Boston. And also, I just didn't. I wanted to do other stuff. I liked doing it when I did it in Boston, but I felt like I wasn't going to grow by doing more of the same in LA. I needed to do other stuff. So then, but I was doing pop ups here and there. In fact, I met my fiance at a pop up show I was involved with. And that was in 2018. And then we met. And, when we met, we just, um, we just like did the show together. We weren't like flirting right off the bat. We definitely liked had a connection of like really good like conversational chemistry, but it wasn't like we were into each other off the bat. I think really for me, it's because I was like, she's a comic. I'm not going to go there. Like,
Yeah,
I'll
aren't comics not supposed to date each other? Isn't nobody supposed to date comics? That's what I've been telling. Nobody date a comic, and comics shouldn't date each other. All comics are supposed to be single forever. Don't date anyone. Right? Isn't that the rule?
I wouldn't advise against comics dating each other. I will preface by saying two things that I think helped us. And we were friendly for a little bit before we started dating. We weren't like best buds, but we like had a healthy window of time of like chatting off and on.
What's a healthy window of time?
Well, I met her in March, and we went on our first date in August.
Okay, all right, I got you.
And we were like, we like crossed paths here and there. We chatted off and on, but then like July to August, we like talked every day over text, basically.
Hey man, there's no formula for this.
Right, for sure. But I will say one thing that helped, I think, is two things. One is I think we both have a healthy emotional maturity of relationships in general. But then more so in the comedy specific realm, like she is much more of like a stage performer, actress, writer who also does stand up. Whereas like stand up was not her first thing. If like on the list of like things she's passionate about doing, it's like number like 3 or 4. Whereas me, stand up was like number 1, and then like hosting, podcasting, acting, writing, those were like below that. So it kind of helped that we weren't both had the exact same thing we're like vying for. Not that we were competing, but it was a little bit of a more variety in stuff that kind of I think helped make it feel more evenly balanced, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I got you.
So then when we started dating in the beginning, I was just doing stand up, and I mean, she really thought I was very good at stand up. She was very impressed, and I was like helping her get better at stand up. And she was like, "So, like, do you have agents? Or do you have headshots? Like, are you going out for auditions?" And I was like, "No, I don't have any of that. Like, I don't even know how to do that." She's like, "What do you mean? You don't know how to do it? You just do it." And then she kind of like helped to walk me
for acting,
for acting, for commercial auditions, for all kinds of stuff.
right?
So for voiceover, I'm doing that now. I had a Butterfinger commercial come out this year for VO. It was pretty cool. I was excited about that. So she really helped me figure out how to do everything else in that world, how to record and get a VO reel, how to get a commercial agent, I got my commercial agent through one of her friends. She introduced me to a friend of hers, and he introduced me to his agent who signed me.
That's awesome.
So yeah. And she just kind of helped me figure out I have a very specific look, if your listeners, you don't know what I look like. I get cast a lot as detective and inmate. Those are my two main things. I have that kind of like bald, tough guy look, all appearance, not in reality.
You're not
I
tough?
can play it on
How tough are you?
I am when I need to be. I mean, I know a little bit of self-defense, and I can. I mean, I avoid physical confrontations as much as possible because I know
That's
how badly
good.
they can get.
That's
I'm
good.
not like, if someone would literally have to be so threatening to me for me to strike. Like, I don't know. I don't like that kind of stuff. Like guys who walk around like machismo, tough guy shit. I think it's so stupid, but I look like it.
Yeah. So far, 0 fights with my podcast guests.
Yeah.
I'm doing good.
I get cast a lot in those types of roles though. And so she was a big part in helping me figure out how to go about getting those.
That's cool. Sounds like she was a big help in your career, really.
Huge. Yeah, hugely. And vice versa. I really helped her develop her stand up, and we've done a lot of shows together now. In fact, this past December, we both co-headlined a show in Cleveland where her mom currently lives and grew up. And all her mom's friends are there. Like, her mom still has friends from kindergarten that are in her town in Cleveland. And so we had like 60 people come out to this little bar show we did. And her mom sold it out for us. It was awesome. It was really funny because
go on.
It was the first time I had met almost all of those people. And it was like me, like meeting them at this show.
I was going to ask, was everyone there pretty much for you guys, or were there some people there who were just kind of like stopping by at the bar for whatever?
I don't think that anybody was totally. It was in a separate room upstairs, so I think and they bought tickets. So everybody there was there for the show, but and there were other comics in the show and some like local people that just like know the bar and stuff. I think total there were like 65 people, maybe 70 in the room, and probably 50 of them were our people via my fiance's extended family network and whatnot.
That's
so
awesome.
They were an easy crowd. It was fun. I mean, they loved it. They were a great crowd, but there was. I like had some joke at the top how I felt like I was auditioning for their approval to marry her, and they like thought that was so fun. Like, I was like, if this isn't good, I think I have to ask for the ring back or something. And they thought that was funny, or I don't remember some kind of crowd work joke about that, and it did really well.
What are your favorite sort of shows or venues to do? Does it even matter? Is it just you want to be in front of people who are laughing? Is that all that really ultimately matters?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, money is a nice plus,
of course.
But all financial gain aside, just people who just really want to be there. I mean, I've done lots of shows where the crowd doesn't even want to be there. Maybe they got free tickets, like at a casino or something, or like it's a bar show, but it was poorly put together, so the people at the bar don't not necessarily even know that it's like,
a thing to pay attention to.
Yeah, they'd rather have a conversation, and like rightfully so. I'm not going to get mad at them if it wasn't set up as a private show. Like if it was like a show in a separate room and you're talking, it's like, get out of here, go to the other room. Like, there's a space for you. But if it's just an open like bar area, it's on the venue. But anyway, really, I guess my favorite club maybe I've ever performed at is Comedy Works in Denver. It's so good, man. It's just like. It's this basement room. It's like not small. It's probably not as big as like, the Hollywood Improv, but it's like just the amount of space where like the walls like packed in the laughs and everybody goes there super into stand up. I will say I found when I was in Boston, I had a lot of gigs I did in New England that I would like open for a bigger comic, they'd bring me on the road. And there were a lot of shows we went to like some middle of nowhere town in New Hampshire, like 3-hour drive from Boston, right? And it's at some like hotel ballroom. Everybody there is out. They paid for like dinner and a show. They're dressed up. Those were some of the best shows I've ever done because for that town, like this is their entertainment for the month.
Yeah.
So people like got a sitter. They were so it would be like if you and I went to like a sick concert. Like for them, they were so grateful that we like drove from Boston to entertain them, and they were such good audiences. They were so excited and happy to be there. So those were really cool.
Is part of you almost like, this is maybe kind of like condescending to people a little bit, but like, is that almost a little bit sad in a way, that kind of lifestyle where you're that far away from like, I don't know, some people value like being in nature, being in a quiet lifestyle, which is fine, but like to be that far away from like entertainment really and culture really.
I see merits in both. I think there's, the same way that like we live in LA and it's really cool, but it's also chaos.
Right.
We're around so much pollution and crazy people. And so it depends.
They think we're fucking crazy.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I see the merits in both. It wouldn't be a life for me. I mean, maybe when I'm older. In fact, my dream world, honestly, is like in a decade or so from now, or maybe even less than that, I live full time in somewhere like in the mountains, a few hours outside of LA. And I have like my house and my family there. And then I can do the road a couple, like, maybe like 1 or 2 weekends a month and do podcasts and stuff from home. And then I'll have like a little 1-bedroom apartment somewhere in LA that when I am in town for doing the local clubs and auditions and acting, I have like a home base in the city, but I have like my home away from LA. Like I would love to do stand up every night, but realistically, I don't think, I don't know if I want to live with a family in Los Angeles and do that. Like I love stand up is my favorite thing in the world ever. But I think I want to have a lifestyle where I live away from LA. My family grows. I want to have kids and stuff. I want them to grow up in a more normal part of the world. But
hey, what are you trying to say about LA?
You know what I'm saying, dude. You know what I mean? And then like do stand up on the road and then come into LA and like I would love to do like a club spot in the city like once a week, right? That's and cool. Then focus on doing like stuff remotely outside, and then have like my spot in the city. So when I need a place to crash, when I'm doing gigs and auditions and stuff, I have that going on.
Yeah, sounds like you got your plans, and that's cool. Have you discussed these with your fiance yet? Does she know the plan?
Yeah, we're both actively working towards it now. I mean, she's her main. So we do a podcast every Monday. We live stream it on my Facebook and our production company's Facebook, Skewed Orbit. Then we drop them every Friday. Excuse me, but she her main focus now is script writing and acting. I mean, she loves stand up too, but
Rachel LaForce, right?
Yes, Rachel LaForce. Yeah.
I don't know if we said her name.
I don't know. I should have. Yeah, Rachel LaForce. She's very funny. She's very, very funny. But you can only have so many first priorities, right? So like in the pecking order of things, like my first priority, my two main focuses right now are like stand up and podcasting. Her two main focuses, I think, are scripts and acting and podcasting too. But what we're going through now more than ever has reminded me and emphasized how important it is to have things you can do remotely and just have a lot of different fires going at once, you know? I mean, if my income was based on performing stand-up, I'd be so fucked right now.
Yeah. There is no stand-up.
No, it's gone. I mean, it will come back in different forms, but I don't think we'll ever see it the way it used to be.
Why not?
Because also, well, it's a few factors, but
why not eventually?
I think live stand-up will always exist. It will always exist, but I don't think the mass scale of it we've seen is going to come back in the same way, because I don't think people who were like preteens now, which will eventually, in 10 to 15 years, they'll be like the main demo of who's supposed to be consuming this stuff. They're growing up in a world where their big stars are the YouTubers and the meme makers and the TikTokers and they like stand up exists to them, but
It's
like
not
when I
long
was that
form.
age,
They don't like
no,
long
man.
form.
I mean, maybe they do, maybe they will, maybe they'll grow to like it in some cases, right? But like when I was 11 to 16, 7, 18, right? I was super into Eddie Murphy,
Me
Dane
too.
Cook, Mitch Hedberg, Chappelle, like Chris Rock. Like I was consuming and loving and craving long form stand up at those ages. Kids those ages, some of them like stand up, some of them do. Some of them are really into guys like D'Elia and even Rogan and Burr, but I see a lot more of them being into like the YouTube comedy stuff. And I'm not mad. I'm not against it. Like some comics think it's like not real comedy. I think that's bullshit. I think comedy is subjective. And when you say stuff like that, you sound like a taxi driver getting mad at Uber. I get it's different. Like I don't like it. This, like, I don't think it's this, to me personally, it's not as good, but my attitude is like, figure out how to use your skills in the market. If you blame the market, you're going to lose.
Right. You got to adapt.
To me, it's like, yeah, it's like seeing a storm coming and then telling it to fuck off because you don't want to learn how to build a shelter.
Yeah. No, you're right.
So
yeah.
So that's so for me, I've been a lot more effort into upping my podcast quality. I've been learning how to edit videos and do like short form clips. So my podcast is long form, but then I'm trying to make a lot of like 30 to 90-second clips that can get on different platforms that hopefully build an audience that way.
Making good use of the time.
Yep.
Cool. Well, you kind of like made some pretty nice segues for me there, because usually I ask what people are kind of like long-term plans towards the end of this podcast, and then I kind of ask people what else they're working on and to promote things. So I'll let you kind of keep going with that if you have anything else you want to talk about or that you're working on.
Yeah, sure.
Give the plugs, do the whole thing.
Yeah, so the two podcasts I have, the one, there's one I do solo called Thin the Herd, and I just interview different people that I find interesting, comedians, entrepreneurs, artists, whatever. And then lately I've been doing a lot of solo episodes because we're in quarantine. And then I have one I do weekly with my fiance called House Rules. You can look that up. It's House Rules with Alex Gettlin and Rachel LaForce. And we live stream it every Monday. And then I do some edits, add some graphics, and I drop that on YouTube and Apple Podcasts every Friday. And I don't know if it's coming out. I got cast in something right before quarantine went into effect. It's I don't know if I can say the name of the project. I'll just be a little vague, but it's a short form series. It's not on Quibi, but it's on a similar service that's competing with Quibi. And the company that's making it, it's the same company that developed Pokemon Go. And it's like a kind of action comedy series that has a video game attached to it. So I got cast in that as like a secret agent security guard type figure.
Live action.
Yeah. So it's live action, short videos that correspond with a Pokemon Go type video game for your phone. It's all in the app on the phone. But right before we were about to go start shooting, COVID hit and everything got postponed. So if it comes back, be on the lookout for it. But I don't think I'm supposed to say what it is, so I'll just be vague. But follow my social media. I'll post about it.
And what is your social media? It's
just at Alex Gettlin on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. You can look me up on YouTube. I got all my stuff on there too.
Sweet. And one more for you. What is the secret to a happy, successful relationship?
Oh God, I don't know, man.
Secrets. Maybe not secrets, but what is the what is important and to have in those things?
A couple. Mutual respect, healthy communication, putting the relationship before your personal needs, really truly valuing the success of your partner and their happiness, and just being cool, man. Just being like a decent partner to somebody.
Treat other people how you want to be treated.
Yeah. And also find someone who is interesting and smart and funny. That was like my priority, which I was able to do. So that was a huge help.
No doubt. Good stuff all around. I appreciate your time. It's been fun. I hope you're going to survive down in the GA in Georgia. Do people say that? GA? I don't know I don't know where that came from.
Well, they say the ATL.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, and then I'm like, he's not in Atlanta.
I'm out. I'm right outside of it.
Oh, yeah, the ATL suburbs. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Hot Lana. That's what people say.
I've heard that one as well. Well,
Yeah.
again, I appreciate your time. I'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening by
Cool.
the fire.
Yeah, it's great, man. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Talk soon. So there you have it. My conversation with Alex Gettlin. I wonder how long he and Rachel are going to be living over in Georgia. I wonder how long we'll all be stuck wherever we are. For real though, that was a lot of fun, and Alex is a good dude, and I again thank him for his time. And yes, one of these days I'm sure I'll see him up on stage again, doing comedy. Anyway, for everything about this show, of course head to peoplewelovepodcast.com. And I think that's about all I got for today. I appreciate you guys listening. Thanks as always. Stay healthy, stay safe. I hope to see other humans again soon in person, besides at the supermarket or whatever. I do pick up. Anyway, thanks as always, and let's talk soon. Peace.